What's up, coaches? Kip Ioane, founder, lead facilitator, Teams of Men. And as always, Teams of Men exists to empower coaches, to enlighten their players, to a reimagined manhood and all the potential that has for creating men of compassion, empathy, emotional fluency, and changing the world for the better through all the sports we love to coach and participate in. This is the Teams of Men YouTube channel. As always, like, follow, subscribe below, and we'll get rolling with a brand new segment. Some of you may have been here for some of our lesson plans. You might have been here for our journal and reflections, our digital newsletter, the Humanity Report. The channel's been blowing up lately, and we couldn't be more grateful for the thousands of you that are following us, and we'd like to add to that. But this is a new section, and I'm calling it We Read It, so you can act on it. And we're delving into groundbreaking research in this series, scientific studies, journals, research, published papers that we come across through all the awesome people we follow online and the different work we do investigating and trying to grow our ability to help coaches build a reimagined manhood. But we want to get this profoundly impactful information to you without you having to read thousands of pages. We discussed the title. We're discussing today a research paper called Who Uses Domestic, Family, and Sexual Violence, How and Why? The State of Knowledge Report on Violence Perpetration. And I want to correctly cite the authors of this study that we break down for you, conducted by Michael Flood, Christine Brown, Letitia Dembele, and Catherine Mills in 2022 at the Queensland University of Technology. So that's the source of today's We Read It, so you can act on it. It's a deeply insightful, powerful paper with a lot of reading, which is why we're doing the video. And we'll make sure we put a link up to it in the comments, in the title description of the episode, so you can get to it. And one more thing before we dive into what we want to do with these kind of medium format videos for our series is I highly recommend following Dr. Michael Flood right here on Twitter. And I'll do a cutaway right now to his Twitter profile. He's a leading voice in reimagining healthy, positive masculinity filled with emotional fluency and compassion, and an invaluable resource for coaches of male athletes and male athletes yourselves, parents of male athletes, and men in general. I know there's a lot of folks that draw upon his research, and he's such a smart, intuitive, engaging voice in the social media atmosphere that I couldn't recommend more following him. But let's dive into it. We read it, so you can act on it. Episode 1 from Teams of Men. All right, there's about 7 key points I want to share with you that I think are actionable for coaches. Myself, having been a college basketball coach for over 20 years at the NCAA Division III level with a men's basketball team, 15 of those as a head coach. But from the State of Knowledge Report on Violence Perpetration, for coaches in general, why did I pick this study for you to break down and help you? Because I think we all got into this knowing we wanted to shape not just athletes on the floor, the field, or the pitch, but also young individuals who impact their communities positively. I was drawn to this particular study because it addresses a crucial aspect of coaching, ensuring our players are sources of positivity and not perpetrators of violence or harm. So let's get rolling. In the first slide, we'll do a cutaway here. There's some mixed results in adolescence violence studies. Our first key takeaway from the study for you to know as a coach is about adolescents' behavior and violence in general. The findings in the study show mixed results in exposure to violence and how that impacts young athletes. This underscores kind of the importance of understanding each athlete's unique background in order to offer the best set of mentoring you can do. So this leans itself into, I got to communicate and build real relationships. It's not enough to be the whistle of power and tell them what to do as an athlete. I got to dive into what makes them them and the lived experience they've had if I want to start the work of quelling their potential for violence and increasing their potential to spread joy, love, and compassion. Next slide. Let's jump to the next one here, and we'll do a cutaway again. Victimization leading to perpetration. Another significant finding in this is the cycle of violence. Many individuals who exhibit violent behaviors have been victims themselves. Creating a supportive environment where past traumas are addressed is crucial in breaking the cycle. So leaning into what we already know as coaches and what we talked about in slide 1, if you don't build mature, authentic relationships that allow kids the freedom to trust you and feel like they can share past traumas, you're going to end up in one of those situations where you say, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. I didn't think he had it in him. I didn't know what snapped, what broke that led him to that outburst of violence, whether with his words or with his hands. That's because we have to understand the cycle of violence can repeat. And if we don't know kids' backgrounds, we're going to be unable to address traumas that could lead to one of those break moments. Next, slide 3. violent supportive attitudes. The study that we're citing in this first episode of We Read It So You Can Act on It highlights that violent supportive attitudes can predict future violence. So as coaches, it's our job to challenge violent supportive attitudes and any beliefs within our teams and our cultures that aren't aligned with respect and empathy. Because if we have guys purporting, co-signing, or staying silent in the support of violence, that violence co-signing attitude can predict future harmers. So we need to take up the cause. Next, number 4, hostile masculinity, which includes traits like dominance and hostility towards women, contributes significantly to sexual aggression. As coaches, we got to address, and that's why you come to us at Teams of Men. We have to address and dismantle harmful attitudes among our athletes towards women. And that's why you come to us. We're the experts in this field of helping break down the man box and upload emotional fluency, agility, compassion, and respect for women and survivors and victims. That's key point number 4. The harboring or the existence of these beliefs in your team room can be predictors towards future sexual aggression in your team rooms. And none of us want that. None of our players want to be in that realm. So we need to address these and tear those walls down. Next point. Key point number 5, peer influence. Peer influence is powerful. Athletes are more likely to adopt aggressive behaviors if surrounded by peers who exhibit similar behaviors. Cultivating a team culture that denounces aggression and promotes healthy peer interaction is essential. And this is where our focus and our fluency as a business, Teams of Men, with healthy relationship skills comes into pass. Because not just in the intimate romantic partner relationship, we have 3-lesson mini courses, we have in-person workshops, we have discussion prompts for you, the coach, to dive into how do I interact with other men? How do I interact with teammates? How do I interact in social situations? They adopt aggressive behaviors. Athletes are more likely to adopt aggressive behaviors if surrounded by peers who exhibit similar aggressive behaviors. So we have to quell this everywhere in your team room and teach them alternatives to puffing our chest out and walking through the world as if every space should be opened and only for us. That's another reason, not just to act on this study, but to get a hold of Teams of Men. Key point number 6, situational factors such as stress or conflict can escalate aggression. Teaching athletes effective conflict management and stress reduction techniques is vital. And this is where, Coach, a lot of it isn't, I need to outsource all this to the mental health professionals on campus, although I think it's vital that you have a roadmap towards how does my players actually get in front of professional mental health care on campus at the school and the environments we exist in, but also you teaching emotional fluency and emotional agility and giving them techniques to find and de-escalate the emotions they're feeling, because they are going to carry things. This isn't a version of, hey, the world is this beautiful place always for everyone. That's not it. We don't want to encourage toxic positivity. This finding about situational factors like stress, knowing that those can escalate aggression, is reasons that you need to be more fluent in de-escalators of those situational factors. And finally, Coach, for you, the role of institutional and cultural settings. Sports teams, specifically in the study, can foster, unfortunately, if we're not intentional, we're not working with Teams of Men, we can foster hypermasculine norms leading to increased violence risks. You need to be a person that's tearing down the man box in your room and building up a reimagined positive masculinity. Because teams can police themselves with old tropes, toxic ideas of what being a man is, and in doing so, perpetuate the violence cycle. And then you can end up with players perpetuating harm upon each other, not just the communities they go out and exist in. You can have a team room of harm. And we know we don't want that. We know none of us would sign up for that. All of us are against that. But if we avoid discussions, conversations, and lessons that we can give you with Teams of Men on tearing down the man box in your players' belief systems, you can end up there. All right. So in conclusion, right, as coaches, we have the power to not just shape athletes, but future community leaders, future positive members of society. And by integrating the things we're trying to share, especially this study today in episode 1 of We Read It So You Can Act on It, we can be change agents because we help build empathetic skill sets in our players, emotional intelligence in our players, and have them acting, not just claiming to be respectful young men. So we thank you for this first section in this brand new series we're doing. As always, like, follow, subscribe via this button. I'll put it up here today. Via that button, and we'll see you next time. Teams of Men.